The scream tore through the quiet night, sharp and raw, the kind that stays with you long after the sound fades. Rain pounded against the windows as blue and red lights flashed across the street, illuminating faces pressed against glass in homes up and down the block. At the bottom of the stairs lay a man, motionless. Blood pooled beneath his head, stark against the worn carpet. 15 years ago, the military had declared him dead. Yet here he was, actually dying on the floor of the home he'd once abandoned. "I didn't." Zariah's voice cracked as officers guided her hands behind her back. Her eyes locked with her daughter's, 18-year-old Amaya, frozen at the top of the stairs, mouth open in silent horror. Across the street, Mrs. Jenkins pointed a bony finger. "I always knew something wasn't right with that woman," she hissed to another neighbor. 15 years of playing the grieving widow, and now look. The handcuffs clicked shut. "Mom, no. It was an accident. I pushed him." Amaya lunged forward, but an officer held her back. Zariah shook her head almost imperceptibly. "It's okay, baby," she whispered. "Everything's gonna be okay." Have you ever wondered how far you'd go to protect someone you love? Would you confess to a crime you didn't commit if it meant saving your child? What if that child was trying to protect you from the husband who abandoned you both years ago? The truth about Darnell Whitaker's disappearance and sudden return would shock an entire community, tear apart two families, and reveal secrets some would kill to keep hidden. This isn't just about a soldier who came back from the dead. It's about what happens when love, loyalty, and lies collide in the most devastating way possible. If your heart's already racing, grab a glass of water. Because once you hear what really happened that night in Baltimore, you'll never look at marriage or devotion the same way again. Welcome to Altar of Secrets, where we uncover stories that remind us how thin the line between love and destruction can be. Today's account will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about loyalty. Our channel brings you the most thought-provoking true crime stories centered around relationships gone wrong, marriages that ended in tragedy, families torn apart by secrets, and the aftermath that changes communities forever. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our daily uploads. Each story comes with lessons that might just save you from making fatal mistakes in your own relationships. What you think happened in Zariah's story is only the beginning. The truth? It's far more complex than anyone could have guessed. Tell us which part of the world you are watching from. We love to know how far this video has traveled. Stick around. Your perception of this family's tragedy is about to be completely transformed. August 2008 arrived with relentless heat that hung over Baltimore like a weight. Zariah Whitaker was in the kitchen fixing breakfast when the knock came. 3 firm taps, too formal to be a neighbor. When she opened the door and saw the army chaplain standing beside a solemn officer, her coffee mug slipped from her fingers, shattering across the porch. "Mrs. Whitaker," the chaplain began, his voice soft yet measured. "May we come in?" 3-year-old Amaya peeked around the corner. "Mommy, who's that? Is it Daddy?" The words cut through Zariah like a knife. "Go to your room, baby. Mommy needs to talk to these men." In the living room, they delivered the news. Staff Sergeant Darnell Whitaker, missing in action after a roadside ambush in Kandahar, presumed dead. Body not recovered. That night, after tucking Amaya in, Zariah sat on her bathroom floor until dawn, silent tears streaming down her face. The next morning, she moved through the house like a ghost, answering Amaya's questions about Daddy with gentle half-truths. "He had to stay away for a very long time, sweetheart." The military pension became its own battle. Without a body, the paperwork dragged on for months. Bills piled up. Phone calls went unanswered. Her mother, Odessa, moved in that winter, a retired postal worker with wisdom etched into every line on her face. "You're too young to face this alone," she insisted, taking over the cooking and childcare while Zariah tried to rebuild. Tariq, Zariah's older brother, came by every Sunday after his bus route, bringing groceries and fixing things around the house. "We got you, little sis," he'd say, patching holes and securing loose railings on the stairs. The same stairs that would, 15 years later, become a crime scene. Then came the call. A man claiming to be Johnson, Darnell's friend from the unit. "There's things you should know," he said, voice low, "about what happened over there." But when Zariah pressed for details, the line went dead. She called back 17 times. No answer. When she reported it to the Army liaison, they assured her all survivors from Darnell's unit had been debriefed. There was no Johnson who matched her description. Just another dead end in a life suddenly full of them. The whispers started at Darnell's memorial service. "Such a shame," said Elaine Washington, passing a casserole dish to Odessa. "Though between us, I heard he owed money to some rough people. My nephew worked with him at the base before deployment. Said Darnell was always short on cash, despite that good military salary." Zariah overheard, her jaw tight, as she accepted condolences from neighbors who watched her with curious eyes. They saw a young widow with a child, but their gazes held questions nobody dared ask aloud. At the grocery store, conversation stopped when she walked down aisles. At the park, mothers pulled their children closer, as if widowhood might be catching. Baltimore's tight community both supported and suffocated her. "People talk," Tariq told her. "Give them time, they'll find someone new to gossip about." But the talk persisted. Pastor Williams prayed for her soul at Sunday service, adding, "And may Sister Zariah find peace with whatever truly happened to Brother Darnell." The emphasis made heads turn. 6 months after the memorial, Zariah found 3 letters in her mailbox, ones she'd sent to Darnell's base overseas, stamped, "Returned to sender." The strange part? The dates showed they'd been returned 3 weeks after his supposed death. When she called the military affairs office, the representative sounded nervous. "Clerical error, ma'am. Nothing to worry about." Dr. Josephine Carter, Zariah's therapist, noted her growing suspicion. "You mentioned trust issues with Darnell before his deployment. Why?" Zariah hesitated. "He would disappear for hours, said he was working late, but his supervisor called once looking for him during those same hours. Did you ever confront him?" "The night before he left for Afghanistan. He laughed it off, kissed my forehead, and promised to explain everything when he returned." A promise now buried in an empty grave. Has anyone ever made you a promise they never got to keep? 15 years passed like a slow-moving river, steady and unstoppable. Amaya Whitaker stood before her bedroom mirror, adjusting the silver necklace that caught light with each movement. Homecoming night, senior year. The dress she'd chosen, deep blue with silver accents, had cost 3 months of saving from her weekend job at the coffee shop. "You look beautiful," Zariah said from the doorway, eyes bright with unshed tears. At 39, she'd built a life from ruins. A modest home, a steady job as a paralegal at Winters & Associates Law, and a daughter who somehow thrived despite the hole where a father should have been. "Mom, don't cry. It's just a dance." Amaya laughed, but her voice held a familiar sadness, the same one that appeared on birthdays and holidays when family photos showed just the two of them. At work, Zariah kept to herself, organizing case files and preparing documents with quiet efficiency. Only Rebecca Collins, the senior paralegal, ever mentioned Darnell. "We dated briefly in high school," she'd revealed during Zariah's first week. "Such a charmer. Never could figure out why he enlisted instead of going to college." The comment hung between them, uncomfortable and heavy with unspoken questions. Last month, Zariah had accepted a dinner invitation from James, a city bus driver who frequented her coffee shop. The date ended abruptly when he asked about her past. "I don't talk about that," she'd said, calling a ride home before dessert arrived. "Some wounds never fully heal. They just become part of who you are." Have you ever kept secrets to protect someone you love? Comment below if you've carried a weight no one else could see. The call came at 3:42 p.m. on a Thursday. "Mom?" Amaya's voice sounded strange, high and tight. "Something weird happened at school today." Zariah set down her coffee. "What's wrong, baby?" "There was this man. He was watching us during outdoor lunch. When I looked at him, he just stared. Mom, he looked like the photos of Dad." Ice flooded Zariah's veins. "That's impossible, Amaya. I know what I saw. He had the same eyes, same jawline. When I started walking toward him, he got into a car and drove away." After they hung up, Zariah sat motionless. Then she unlocked her bottom desk drawer and pulled out a folder labeled DW Papers. Inside, death certificate, military documents, the notification letter. Nothing had changed. Darnell Whitaker was still legally dead. That evening, she mentioned the incident to Rebecca while organizing case files. A ghost sighting? Rebecca laughed, then stopped abruptly. Wait, what school does Amaya attend? Roosevelt High. Why? Rebecca's hand knocked over her coffee mug, dark liquid spreading across case notes. No reason. I need to clean this up. As she hurried away, Zariah noticed something odd. Rebecca's phone screen showed a text message. He was at the school. She saw him. Saturday morning, while Amaya got her hair done for homecoming, Zariah called Tariq. I need a favor. Can you check with your military contacts about Darnell's case? See if anything was unusual? Tariq went quiet. What brought this on? Just a feeling. You still wear your wedding ring, Zariah. After 15 years, that's not just a feeling. She touched the gold band unconsciously. Will you help me or not? I'll make some calls. But sis, don't go looking for ghosts. Sometimes the dead should stay buried. As evening approached, Zariah helped Amaya with final preparations, each smile masking the fear gnawing at her insides. What if it wasn't imagination? What if, after 15 years of grieving, Darnell Whitaker had returned from the grave? Roosevelt High's gymnasium glowed with string lights and silver streamers. Zariah stood near the punch table, watching Amaya twirl in her date's arms across the floor. For a moment, everything felt normal. Perfect, even. Then she saw him. Across the room, beside a cluster of parents, Darnell. Older, hair cut shorter than she remembered, but undeniably him. The scar above his right eyebrow, the way he tilted his head when listening, the slight limp from an old football injury. Her lungs forgot how to work. A woman stood next to him, honey-brown skin glowing under the lights, her hand resting on his arm. Two boys, maybe 10 and 8, fidgeted in their dress shirts nearby. Before Zariah knew what was happening, her feet carried her forward. Parents and students parted like water as she moved. Darnell? The name scraped her throat, foreign after years of disuse. He turned. Their eyes met. His face drained of color. Zariah. The woman beside him stiffened. Darnell, who is this? Amaya appeared at Zariah's side. Mom, what's going on? The older boy tugged at Darnell's sleeve. Dad? The word hung in the air like a gunshot. You're supposed to be dead. Zariah's voice rose. 15 years, Darnell. 15 years we mourned you. The gymnasium went silent. Phones appeared, recording. I can explain, he said, hands raised. Not here. Principal Thompson approached cautiously. Is there a problem? This man abandoned my daughter, Zariah said, voice shaking with rage. Let us think he died in Afghanistan. Now he shows up at her homecoming with my family, he finished quietly. The woman, Letitia, they would later learn, pulled her sons close. We're leaving, Darnell. Now. As security escorted them out, Darnell dropped something. A small key skittered across the floor, stopping at Zariah's feet. Amaya collapsed into her mother's arms, sobs racking her body. Who is he? Someone whispered. The dead husband, came the reply. Back from the grave. By morning, everyone in Baltimore would know. Staff Sergeant Darnell Whitaker had returned from the dead. By Sunday morning, phones across Baltimore lit up with videos of the confrontation. Church service at Grace Community became an impromptu town meeting. The Lord works in mysterious ways, Pastor Wilson said from the pulpit, eyes finding Zariah in the third row. Let us not judge what we cannot understand. Deacon Morris stood up without being called. A man who lets his family believe he's dead for 15 years? That's not mysterious. That's wicked. The congregation erupted. Some defended Darnell. PTSD makes good men do terrible things, while others rallied around Zariah. That woman raised a child alone while he started a whole new life. Odessa sat beside Zariah, clutching her chest. Her blood pressure medication doubled overnight. My son-in-law is alive, she kept repeating, as if saying it might make sense of the impossible. At home, Tariq paced Zariah's kitchen. I got a hold of Captain Reynolds from Darnell's unit. He says the official report never changed. Darnell was declared MIA, presumed KIA. So how is he walking around Baltimore with a new wife and kids? Zariah demanded. That's what I aim to find out, Tariq said, jaw tight. Monday morning, Zariah found a note slipped under her door. Leave it alone or everyone gets hurt. The handwriting wasn't Darnell's. At work, colleagues watched her with a mix of pity and curiosity. Rebecca called in sick. For 15 years, Zariah had been poor widow Whitaker. Now she was something else. A woman scorned, a joke, or maybe something worse. If you're stunned by this turn of events, sit tight. It's about to get even more complicated. Tariq pulled into the VA parking lot where his old army buddy Kevin now worked as an administrator. "This isn't exactly legal," Kevin said, glancing over his shoulder as he typed Darnell's name into the database. "Personnel files are confidential." The screen filled with documents. "That's weird," Kevin muttered. "Half these files are classified, way above my clearance." "What about the death notification? Who filed it?" Kevin scrolled down. "Lieutenant James Cooper, who's now Colonel Cooper. And look, 3 separate inquiries into Whitaker's case were opened and closed within weeks. No explanation." "Someone wanted this buried," Tariq said. Meanwhile, Zariah found Rebecca waiting at her desk Tuesday morning. "I need to tell you something," Rebecca said, voice low. "I didn't just date Darnell in high school. We reconnected right before his deployment." Zariah's hands went cold. "What?" "Nothing happened," Rebecca insisted. "But he talked about money problems, said he had a plan to fix everything, but needed to disappear for a while. I thought he meant from his creditors, not from you and Amaya." Before Zariah could respond, her phone rang. A Department of Defense investigator requested a meeting about potential pension fraud. That evening, Amaya discovered a box of letters in Odessa's attic, correspondence between her grandmother and a lawyer about claiming Darnell's life insurance. One line stood out. "Should evidence arise suggesting Staff Sergeant Whitaker's disappearance was voluntary, benefits would be subject to immediate repayment with penalties." "Why didn't you tell me about this?" Zariah asked her mother. Odessa looked away. "The money put Amaya through private school. I couldn't risk losing it." Everyone had secrets. Everyone had something to hide. This story is about to take a turn no one expects. If you're invested in uncovering the truth and still haven't liked this video at this point, what are you waiting for? The text message came from an unknown number. "We need to talk. About Darnell. Meet me at Riverside Cafe. Leticia." Zariah nearly deleted it, but curiosity won. The cafe sat across town, far from prying eyes. Leticia arrived alone, sunglasses hiding puffy eyes. "My boys are with my sister. Darnell doesn't know I'm here." "Why should I listen to anything you have to say?" Zariah asked. "Because I didn't know about you until last week," Leticia said, sliding a photo across the table. "I met Darnell in 28, 7 years ago, not 15. The photo showed Darnell with different hair, different name on his work badge. He told me he was James Taylor, a former contractor who worked overseas, no military background. We married 5 years ago." Leticia's voice cracked. "Last month he started acting strange, making calls when he thought I was asleep. Then he insisted on attending your daughter's homecoming." "But why?" "I don't know, but I found this." She passed over a Georgia driver's license. Darnell's face, another different name, dated 2014. There are others, different states, different names. That evening, Leticia brought her sons to meet Amaya. Despite the circumstances, the children formed an instant connection. "They have his smile," Amaya whispered to her mother. "They're innocent in all this," Zariah replied. While the children played, Zariah examined the key Darnell had dropped. A storage unit number was etched on one side. "I've seen this before," Leticia said. "He keeps it on his keychain but never told me what it opens." 2 women from different lives, connected by one man's deception. What secrets would that key unlock? Rain pounded against the windows as Zariah sorted through old photos with Amaya. The doorbell rang, unexpected, at 9:30 p.m. Darnell stood on the porch, soaked and alone. "5 minutes," he said. "That's all I ask." Against her better judgment, Zariah let him in. Neighbors' curtains twitched across the street. "You look good," he said, eyes taking in the home he'd abandoned. "Both of you." "Cut the small talk," Zariah snapped. 15 years, Darnell. Explain." He sank onto the couch. "The ambush was real. I was injured, separated from my unit. When I came to, I was miles away with no identification. My tags were gone. So call home. Contact the embassy." "I owed people money, Zariah. Bad people. Gambling debts I hid from you. They threatened you and Amaya if I didn't pay." "So you let us think you were dead?" Amaya's voice shook. "I planned to send money anonymously until the debt was cleared. Then things got complicated. I crossed into Pakistan, worked odd jobs. By the time I paid everyone off, years had passed. I was ashamed. How could I come back?" "So you started a new family instead?" Zariah's voice rose. "I met Leticia in Georgia. She knew nothing about my past. It was easier to start fresh than face what I'd done." Coward, Zariah hissed. Why come back now? Amaya asked. Darnell hesitated. I saw your photo in the school newsletter online. You look so much like... Like who? Zariah interrupted. Like your mother at that age, he finished, but something in his eyes shifted. The argument escalated. Accusations flew. 15 years of grief transformed into rage. You stole my childhood, Amaya shouted. I protected you. Darnell yelled back, stepping toward her. Zariah moved between them. Don't you dare approach my daughter. Our daughter, he corrected, grabbing Zariah's arm. Amaya lunged forward, hands outstretched. Let go of her. The push wasn't hard, but Darnell stood at the edge of the stairs. His eyes widened in surprise as he lost balance, arms windmilling. Then he fell backward, tumbling down the narrow staircase. The sickening thud silenced everything except the rain. The police arrived within minutes. Neighbors had called at the first raised voices. He just fell, Amaya repeated, shock blanking her face as paramedics loaded Darnell into an ambulance. He was alive, but unconscious. Detective Powell, a veteran with kind eyes, took initial statements. Mrs. Whitaker, we'll need you to come to the station tomorrow. The next morning, Tariq arrived at the precinct before Zariah. Officers separated them immediately. Why are you questioning my brother? Zariah demanded. Mrs. Jenkins across the street saw him arguing with your husband yesterday afternoon. Detective Powell explained. Said it looked physical. That's ridiculous. Tariq would never. We're just following protocol. But as days passed, the investigation shifted. Dr. Carter, Zariah's therapist, received a subpoena for session notes. Officers discovered Zariah had once told her, sometimes I imagine what I'd do if Darnell walked through that door, and it's not pretty. Meanwhile, Letitia found a safety deposit box key hidden in their bedroom. Inside, documents proving Darnell had planned his disappearance months before deployment. Bank accounts in multiple names. A life insurance policy on Zariah. When confronted with this evidence, Zariah made a decision that would change everything. I pushed him, she told Detective Powell. Amaya tried to stop me, but I was so angry. 15 years of lies, I just snapped. The confession came as Darnell regained consciousness, his memory of the fall conveniently blank. In the county jail, Amaya visited weekly, her eyes hollow with guilt. Mom, I need to tell them the truth. It was me who pushed him. Zariah reached across the table, squeezing her daughter's hand. No, baby. You must live your life. That's all I ever wanted. 5 years later, Amaya stands at her mother's prison visiting room table, college graduation photos spread between them. I got into law school, she says. I'm going to help people like you, Mom. Zariah smiles, gray now streaking her hair. I'm so proud of you. What the world never learned. The storage unit contained proof that Darnell had been working with auxiliary contractors to fake deaths and create new identities for soldiers with debts or troubled pasts. The operation collapsed when one participant threatened to expose everything. Darnell recovered from his injuries but disappeared again, leaving Letitia and their sons with nothing but questions. The truth about that rainy night remains known only to mother and daughter, a secret that binds them together even as it keeps them apart. Some say love is sacrifice. Others call it madness. For Zariah Whitaker, it was both. What would you have done in her position? Would you have confessed to protect your child? Or would you have fought to expose the truth, no matter the cost? Comment below and subscribe if you haven't, for more stories that challenge what we think we know about love, loyalty, and justice. Until next time, remember that truth and lies both leave scars on the soul, and sometimes the greatest act of love is sacrifice, bearing the weight of consequence so your loved ones may walk free. Stay safe, stay aware, and thank you for joining us today. See you on another story from the Altar of Secrets. Bye for now.